Welcome everyone to the Bookkeeper Blueprint.
Good morning.
Today we are talking about really how underpricing, undercharging, underquoting, not having a pricing plan in your business is going to hurt you in the long run. Unfortunately, we see this with bookkeepers starting out in our program all the time. The good news is it's fixable, but we have to take actions to fix it. And Megan and I love helping you guys with this because we love helping turn that ship around and go from I'm working 40 hours a week in my business to make $1,000 a month to flipping that equation. That's what we're talking about today. That is our main focus. If you guys have questions, we'd love to answer those towards the end. Or as we go, if it's on topic, we'll answer it. But we always have a Q&A towards the end of the call, and there's always enough time. So if you have questions, feel free to post those in the chat and we can get to them. Or when we get there, feel free to ask your questions so that we can help. Megan and I always work open books. We share what's working, what's not, what we no longer do, what we have started doing that's working for us. We give you the behind the scenes of how we're currently running our bookkeeping businesses and what we're encouraging students today to do in their bookkeeping business. Cool. Megan, do you have any stories or anything you want to share?
Definitely starting out, that's something that we see a lot with brand new bookkeepers, and even guilty myself, is not charging what you're worth, what you can be charging. And especially if you don't have the experience starting out, it feels, can I really charge that? Is somebody going to pay that price? That sort of thing. I definitely quickly learned early on in my business that, other like CPAs and stuff in the area are charging almost $300 an hour to do bookkeeping work local to me. So you can definitely charge what you're worth and all the things. You don't have to undercut yourself.
And as you talk to CPAs more and build those relationships, you're going to find some CPAs are still undercharging for bookkeeping, just for all around for their services. I have seen bookkeepers charge $100 a month. And you're like, no wonder it's not right. There's just no way they can pay a staff to keep up with it like we can keep up with it, which is why Megan and I always encourage you need a CPA, tax preparer, EA doing your taxes. You need a bookkeeper doing your bookkeeping. You need 2 sets of eyes. I have underquoted in the past. I've had to change pricing. I've had to let clients go because I underpriced for the work or just didn't scope it well, or there was a lot of changes. I have gotten better over the years of price increasing. So when scope creep happens, and that sometimes just happens naturally, it's not like they're trying to take advantage of you. Their business has just grown. So sometimes when you hear scope creep, might not be a bad thing, right? We want their businesses to grow. We want them to succeed and we want to grow with them. And if that's the case, we need to have a plan for increasing their rate when they do. I have there was one student that came through the Bookkeeper Blueprint. And when she started, we put all of her numbers on paper. So we took all of her clients and we listed them ABC. Then we listed out how many hours her and her team were spending on each of them. At the end of it, she was, no joke, working 40 hours a week to earn $2,400 a month. And she had team members on other clients. And she had, I want to say 8 to 12 clients, not very many. And they were all tiny, like none of them, I don't think any of them were above $500 a month. But when I showed it to her on paper, she was like, oh, no wonder I feel the way I do. What happens when you are chronically underquoting is you start to lead to burnout. So 40 hours a week, 2,400. Like when you start your business, you're excited, right? You're like hobby status. You're doing all of this work for no money. You're talking to people, you're trying to get clients. Hopefully that first month you do get a client, right? So that you're not always there. But then it's going to go from hobby to I'm in business now. And your joy is going to go down just a little bit because now you're making money. That's just what happens. Now you're actually having to do the work that you were hoping to get. So now you're doing the work, your joy's down a little bit, but now your money's increased. So for visioning a chart, I don't have a visual for you, but joy, work, money. Okay. You're going to, as you get clients, drop on joy almost 100% of the time if you do not pay attention to this. Your joy is going to drop. Your money will have increased. So now we're farther along on that chart, but our joy is pretty, we need a break. We need a vacation and we need to turn the ship around. Okay. There's going to be a line here of burnout. Hopefully we're not there yet, but your joy is, if you don't turn this around and get on the other side of this, once you get on the other side of this and start making a plan to correct it, you actually move into business owner and your joy starts to come back up. Okay. I am not going to say that there's amount of money that makes that happen. Okay. Some of you only want, let's call it $1,000 to $2,000 a month. If you were to have $4,000 worth of clients and had a team member helping on all of the clients that you had, and you showed up, you met, you talked to the clients, like you're working under 10 hours a month, maybe 4 hours a week. Yeah, I just said 4-hour work week. Come after me in the comments. I'm just kidding. I will talk to you about it. If that's your goal, you could definitely do that and your joy is going to stay higher if we can get on top of that quicker. Megan, I think you just had a conversation with someone about that who started hobby and quickly went down. Her health went down, everything. But right, like we're on the let's hockey stick this back to where it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The other reason not having either, and this can come from just not having a pricing plan, or yeah, I'll do it for $100 a month. Yeah, I'll do all this work for $500 a month when they should be $1,500. Whatever that is, it's going to bring you frustrating clients or low quality clients. You could also be on the flip side. I want to make this asterisk here, big fat asterisk. Megan and I have both had clients that paid us a lot of money. And we were so glad when they left. And I don't think we kept either of them very long.
Nope.
They were like the opposite of the spectrum, high paying clients, super not worth the money. And I'm not saying all high paying clients are that way, but there is a particular brand of client that is that way. So you have that spectrum. I'm talking about the low quality client that's, yeah, I've got one bank account. There's 50 transactions. You give them a quote on the phone. They're making it sound so easy. It's $150 a month. It'll take me an hour to do. Great. That's what you guys say. Y'all say $100 an hour. So I'm good. You log into QuickBooks. There's 5 accounts and like 150 transactions a month. And they are not willing to increase prices. And not worth it. You're going to also, from that, start to really limit your growth. So that would be the third reason. So as far as hidden costs go, you're going to limit your growth. You're not going to have the room to hire or to invest in software or systems that will make your life easy. If you guys have heard me tell this story before, most of you, some of you guys are new. So if you haven't heard me tell the story, if you've heard me, bear with me for a second. Megan, what was the phrase? From the jump street. And I had no clue what she was saying. I'm like, she kept telling me from the jump street. And I'm like, 6 months later, I finally piped up and was like, what in the world do you mean by that? She graciously answered from the start. Apparently that is is it Louisiana or is it just South? But I'm like from Texas, a few hours from you. So
I never heard it.
Never heard it. From the get-go is what I grew up with. Like, any analogy with cows? Like, that was okay. So anyway, so I had no clue what she was saying. Thankfully, I still did it anyway, but I still needed her reminder from the get-go, from the start. We need to have some of these plans. One of the systems I purchased was an engagement letter software for accountants. Megan has heard me so many times want to cancel this service, and I almost did. but it's once you're really into a system, sometimes it's not worth changing. And I keep falling into the not worth changing, Megan. Like, I just keep using it. I tried again. So there's a couple other people that never heard of it. But anyway, I finally asked. So if you guys hear us saying something that you don't understand,
Yeah, please ask.
we don't know. Like, just tell us that you don't know. Like, I don't feel silly for asking. And it helped me understand what she was communicating, right? Like, she didn't know that was local, like a local phrase. And everyone else seemed to understand it or was able to fill
Or
in
they
the
never
gap.
questioned it. Yeah.
And I just wasn't able to fill in the gap. I was like I could have inferred, I guess, that it was from the start, but there was something about it that I was like, I think I'm missing something because this is not working. And so I asked. But so when I say that, even if your goal is 2,000 a month, maybe we're going to grow this business to 4,000 a month so that you're taking home 50%. And we're going to have that end in mind. It's not just that I want 2,000 a month and I can never get sick with the flu. Guys, my husband came down with flu B this week. I hope I don't get it. We were just sick. I'm like, I think because I was just sick, Lord, please give me a pass on this. Like, because it wiped me out. Allie has gone through a season with just back to back to back illnesses. And Allie, I'm just hoping that stays with you. And anyway, so what if I go down? It's tax season. Now, thankfully, I have a team that can keep most of it together, but you want to build a business where you can go down. And I feel like if I went down, life would not end. Like, it would be okay. So one of the books I encourage, and Allie, I don't know if you can drop the link to this book. I don't remember if it's in the blog. 100% I bet it is. If not, it's called Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. Y'all all know I love Mike Michalowicz. Okay, not every single one of his books, but 95% of his books I really do recommend. They're all worth reading. Some of them are like worth repeat reading. Clockwork is one of them. And it will help you. So if you're a reader or if you want to listen to audio, he's really funny audio. So he's like the best audio book person that I have found. And he talks about making sure you're replaceable, right? If you go down, you want to have your business run like clockwork so you can check out of the business. Your goal is business owner. So if your goal is 2,000, you've got $4,000 worth of clients, which you can do that in a year. If we're determined, we can do that in a year. You can do that in 3 months. It really is achievable if that's what we want to do. When I'm saying there's no room to hire, it's not the scale of money. It is the workload to the money. Does that make sense? It's the ratio. Okay, I just want to be very clear that it's not like the amount of money that makes you able to hire. You can hire at $1,200 a month. If your goal is for extra $500, go get yourself $1,200 worth of clients and hire a really part-time. Now, it does get easier, I will say, to hire full-time in my experience. Are there ways? Absolutely. Megan and I have those in our back pocket for you too. And there are a couple of ways to do that. Okay. Once you dip, so you go from hobby, high joy, no money, to, okay, this is my job now. You go down in joy just a little bit. You're making money. You're getting started. It's your hustle. You're going to drop in joy when it starts to become a lot of work. And that's just anything. That doesn't mean it's bad. You're just going to drop in joy. You go train for a marathon. It's going to start out the same way. High joy, I'm ready for this. And then you start physically working your body. Same thing, right? It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's work. And then we're going to hockey stick this thing around. What happens on that downward slope, though, is you can let resentment and a lack of confidence build. Oh my gosh, I might not know what I'm doing because I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know how to price because I'm clearly working too much. You guys say this much revenue for this hourly rate. That's not my reality. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to throw in the towel. I'm just going to burn it all. Guys, every entrepreneur has a burn it all moment. Every single one. And if they don't, I would not like to know what drugs they're doing, but they're lying to you if they have never had a shut it all down moment, getting started. Now, maybe in a new endeavor, they haven't because they learned the lessons in the prior endeavor. That happens, right? Or they got really clear on their why. Or they have really good mindset around problems that are coming across their desk. But until you've exercised that muscle enough, you're going to have a burn it down all moment. It's not a bad thing. It's just a signal that something's wrong. There's just a signal that we can fix something. It doesn't actually mean burn it all down. It means I call Megan. Megan, I want to burn it all down. Megan, have you called me with a burn it all down moment? Not quite burn it all down,
but very close to it. And probably more recently than
there are seasons. There are seasons.
Yeah.
Often that just means there's a problem that we're either not being honest about, we haven't shown the light on it, we haven't uncovered it, we haven't let it be solved. Sometimes it's just our own limitations. We don't think the problem can be solved. We don't think we can go get the client. One of the things that Megan did well, and Megan, I'm going to let you speak to this. You knew that a fixed percentage of the income you brought on was going to help hire someone, right? How did you do that? Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that did take me a little while to realize I needed to hire, but I had to have one of those just moments with myself where it was like, okay, I started my business because I wanted to have more time with my daughter. Now, yeah, I'm physically here with her, but I'm still I'm working 24/7 because I'd gotten so many clients, so much work and stuff. And it was just like, I was doing it, felt like I was working 24 hours a day. And then, so yeah, at that point, started hiring and made sure that every client that came on after that, a certain percentage was going back to this is what's going to hire. I wish I would have started that from day one in my business, but nobody talked about it. I didn't know anything about it because it would have been so much easier to hire early on because we all know, especially I was a single mom. So I left my full-time job to do this. So I got into I barely replaced my income at that moment and was barely making bills meet and all the things. But then you adjust to that lifestyle of, okay, I added on another client. My daughter started competing twirling. So we had extra expenses come on for this. We lost a house in a hurricane, rent went up, like all these different things. So then your lifestyle has to adjust to everything that's happening. Whereas if I would have started from the start hiring, one, I could have taken on more clients quicker if I would have had people helping me out. And two, I would have had known, okay, 30% of that income's gone. Don't get used to having that. And of course, you have additional expenses that come along with your business and stuff as well. So whatever any kind of monthly subscription fees, things like that built into that. But after that, any additional clients come on 30%. And I'm saying 30%. There is a reason behind that number. So don't just go say every 30%. That's what you're throwing at a contractor or whoever to do. That's something that has worked for me. It does not work for everybody. And there is a certain percentage for all the different things. But if you set out with that mindset to start with, again, I wish somebody would have told me that because when I was working full time in my business, when I was working full time and starting my business, if I would have learned the bookkeeping and started hiring then, I could have set my business up and grown a lot quicker. But never in a million years did I think that I would think my business was going to get me where it had gotten me. I thought, hey, I'm just trying to replace this income. And that was all I was looking to do at the time. But there's so many options. And that's why we try to tell all these things, the things that we're seeing with other bookkeepers, what we've learned in our business and all this, learn from our mistakes, learn now what you can do and do it better. So you can have the business that you want. You can have the life that you've dreamed of, like all the things. But definitely remember, because like I said, I had to put myself back in check on what was my why. This is why I started my business, was to be there more for my daughter, not to be there, but working 24/7 still because you're not being present. So I had to figure out what that was going to look like for me and make adjustments and all the things. So that's why it's so important to know what your why is and focus back on that, because it was getting to the point then where it was getting miserable, where it was like, why did I leave a 40-hour a week, and I was working more than that, but 40-hour a week job to work 90 hours a week or whatever? It felt, is this really worth it kind of thing, kind of moment. So you do have to know what your goals are, remind yourself of those things. And that's what plays a huge part in like your pricing, your value, and all the things. And we see all the time where people are pricing so low that you don't want to show up for those clients, that now it makes your job just feel like it's so miserable or whatever. So if y'all were on the podcast last week with Jennifer Allwood, she made the comment on there, and I feel like this goes back to that she had this one particular client when she was painting and stuff that she knew they were always going to need some additional help. They were going to be calling her at odd hours. They were going to be doing all these different things. So she charged an additional fee to them. And they didn't know that, but she just tacked it on because she knew, but it made it worth it. It made her want to show up and do it. And that's the same thing that goes with your business. If it's worth it, then you want to show up. You want to continue to grow your business and do all the things. Whereas if it's not, and you're just like dreading doing the client work, you just get in this funk and you're like, I want to burn it all down, like Sherry said. So it's definitely an adjustment. Is anybody at that point in their business? I think we have like a combination of people on here. It looks like some of y'all, I don't know your background, but some of you I do because we've chatted or worked with y'all in the past. But so some of you have established businesses, some are brand new and just starting. So if you're brand new and just starting, I'm so excited that you're on this call, because take this advice and definitely learn from our lessons. Just one client. Perfect. So yeah, learn that moving forward. And you have to, it's lessons that you're going to learn. You have to figure out your pricing and stuff as you go. But yeah, so if you're brand new and just starting, perfect time to be hearing all this and to learn before you get to that point and you're feeling totally overwhelmed or anything. And let's see. So the ones who are there who have businesses, y'all have any questions about that? Do you feel like you're priced fairly well?
May I speak to that?
Of course you can. How are you?
Um, I'm doing good. I feel I'm comfortable with my pricing now because of the conversations I've had with you guys and the tools that's been provided. And the reason I want to speak to that, I had the opportunity to give a quote to somebody the other day. And sometimes I have a bleeding heart and he really needs assistance, has nothing set up, but I needed to stick to the framework that you provided. And this is one of the first times I was turned down, but really I knew it would be a pain and I would have regretted it in a month. So it's actually the other way around. I didn't get this client, but it was a good thing because I think I would have been chasing him down 4 payments later. So
Yeah. Most definitely. Good job on standing your ground with that and everything. And I'll tell you, we've seen students, y'all, who you just want to accept it because of those reasons. But a lot of times it turns into not one client, but now you end up with 10 of them that are like that. Now you're so overwhelmed. You don't feel like you can take on any additional clients. Is bookkeeping even the thing for me? Because I'm working 40 hours a week and I'm literally making $400. I could go somewhere else and work full time and make way more than that. So it gets you, like, sometimes that one client turns into multiple and it really gets you into a rut. So good job, Abel, for standing that ground.
I'm sad it was a no, but I'm glad that you had perspective. And that kind of leads us to like there are 4 things that you can do if you're feeling like, hey, I'm in this boat. Or I don't want to be in this boat. There are 4 things that you can do. 1, what is your ideal client? I had signed a $75 client called Megan. Oh no, what was it? I called Megan first. I was in like just a rut. And on Facebook, someone messaged me. They wanted their bookkeeping done in Wave for $75 a month. Because I was in a rut, I said yes. What was I thinking? So right after that, I took the steps to define my ideal client. And for me at that point in time, it wasn't a salon owner. It wasn't a real estate agent, right? Like it wasn't a niche per se, but it was, what is that business What does the business look like? And I knew at that point that I had worked with enough business owners. This was year 2 or 3 in business or something like that. Two in business, full year, 2.5. And I knew I didn't want to be their highest paid person on their books or their highest bill. And I'm talking, let's start with $300. I don't want to, $300. I do not want to be the highest bill on your books. So I knew that they needed to have at least 3 contractors that they were paying regularly and used to paying. I decided that I didn't want any startups. I didn't want any brand new business owners. I didn't want to do the coaching, the questions, all of that. So they needed at least 3 contractors, 3 vendors that they were paying, freelancers, something that they were paying. I was not going to be the first thing to go because cash flow was tight or whatever. And I didn't want to shock their system. So I said 3 years in business, at least 300,000 in revenue. So $300 a month was my lowest that I would go at that point. Because I needed some wins. I went higher after that. My minimum went up to 500, but so that's 1% is 300,000 a year. And one of my best clients was at 300,000. So I think I also read Pumpkin Plan. So this was right after reading Pumpkin Plan by Matt Michalowicz, which I think is also on that blog list. So 3 years in business, 300,000 and at least 3 contractors or people that they were paying. That was my ideal client. But that gave me enough clarity to know who I was looking for. It gave me the ability to say, where are they hanging out? Where are they getting their news? Are they busy? Are they bored? It was a start. It's not the same now, but that's really what gave me some focus to zero in on the type of person I wanted to be talking to. That gave me some clarity on what Facebook groups to be on, what content to post. I then packaged my services. For me, I knew equal weights and measures was something I needed to stick to. And I had tried someone else's quoting method of like 1% of revenue. Because that's an accounting standard. It's not like a quoting method. But they were intending it as a quoting method and it just didn't work. Like I had a phone call with someone, they're like, why does it matter how much I make? Okay. That lesson learned, it was very clear to me, oh, that makes sense. I'm going to now do equal weights and measures. For me, that's biblical. And for me, I can do that through packaging my services or using a standardized pricing calculator for my firm. So there's 2 ways to do it. Either way you do it, you can have a $10 million business. For me, this is how I quote. I know there are people in the accounting industry that disagree. I can have a $10 million business and a $1 million business that gets the same quote because they have the same workload. The $10 million business is just charging $5,000 a product, whereas the million is charging $500 a product. Equal weights and measures I shortened it. Let me give you the actual where it's coming from. So it's coming from Leviticus 19:35 through 36. You shall have just and accurate balances, just weights. It's also mentioned in like Deuteronomy 25. So biblically, how to price your business. You shouldn't alter the weight on one. So like you shouldn't have a silver weight and a gold weight because they won't balance. So you can't compare silver to a gold weight. So for me, I'm going to give both businesses the same quote, if that makes sense. So it's just coming from a true set of measurements. Whereas like 1% of revenue is a true measurement. For me, it just felt icky when it was like, it didn't matter for me.
And I'll touch on that too, because I've told y'all this before, some of you who've had conversations with me, but somebody told me to quote based on revenue toward the beginning of my business. And when I asked somebody, I remember specifically asking this one client or this one potential toward the beginning of my business, how much revenue do you make? Because it's one of those things where it's just those questions I'm going down. And he like literally chewed me out because his response was, how much money I make matter how much you're going to charge me? And after that, I was like, I will never ask that question again. But like now, as I sit back and look, Like I have had clients who make absolutely no money who have been more work than the clients who have $1 million business. But the one who's making no money is because they're brand new, because of the type of the industry they're in. So they have tons of transactions. So yeah.
Sometimes, and that's why I went up to 300,000 was I noticed like clients doing 100,000. They were changing bank accounts all the time. They were opening like just anything for cash flow. And that created a lot more work for me. Sometimes you could have a business coasting at 100,000 because it's their side hobby, side hustle, an Etsy shop, something like that. That's just monkey see, monkey do. I was looking this year at one of my clients' financials. His workload has never increased. I finish him in hour and a half max a month, like between me and the team and stuff. His revenue when I started with him was like 200,000 a year. It's now 800,000 a year. My workload has increased to 0. Just because it's a plug and play set of books. He's also accrual, and he's charged based on what he actually has. Not now he should have received like just an inflation increase. I haven't been willing to fire him for not accepting that, but it is what it is. He's just there. Not slowing us down. I'm still profitable on him. I still like him as a person. He's still there. Maybe we could look at that in the future, but not today's problem. And then I have a couple of $1 million businesses that do less than 50 transactions a month, but we do payroll for them. Transaction wise, they're pretty easy, but payroll and their questions and their neediness, stuff like that, is a lot more work. Their communication. And so they're a lot more. So just some sort of scale. You need some sort of plan on how to price them is what I'm saying there. And there's quite a few references to equal weights and measures. And you can do the historical research on that, like what was going on during some of those seasons where that's brought up. But it was just people cheating, people out of money and being dishonest in it like exchanging counterfeit money, stuff like that. Okay. So we talked about pricing your services or using a pricing calculator. Step 3 would be just to communicate your value. What are you solving for them? What is the problem? And this is why I say, if you can talk to business owners, just as like market research, read through like Facebook groups. What are business owners needing? What are they saying that they want? I had a client a few years ago call me up on their way to a tax preparer's office, their CPA's office, and saying, is this what you do? I never want to do this again. Yes, it is. And so for them, and I actually just updated my website last night to add this on a section of it. Let me read it. Just because I loved how, like, this is so true for me. Oh, okay. I'm doing too many things. Sorry. But in essence, it was, my mission, what I'm helping people do. And there's a phrase in it that I'm helping families have freedom. This particular family has quite a few more than one kid. So they're really busy in kid world. He's working from home. She's doing the mom stuff. Like it's really busy. And I think they're starting a side hustle. They're really busy. I took that off of them, took it off of her plate, the wife's plate. Number one is what I see is the wife is probably doing it if it's the husband running it and in my clients. And so I'm giving her back time. I'm giving him back I need this. And so I'm helping that communication, right? That's our ROI in itself, but I'm taking that stress away. And you can communicate that better when you know that exact problem that's going on behind the scenes. And then step 4 would be to raise your rates confidently. Guys, I fired a client at the beginning of the year just because he wanted more services and maybe I could have quoted him for the more services, but personality fit wasn't there. And so I just decided I didn't want him as a client. Sometimes you can solve that just by raising your rate. He wasn't a rate issue. It was a personality issue. And then I just in January raised a rate on a client because we'd added another task that I had never. So you can do that. Having a quoting calculator, having some sort of plan will help you do that more confidently. And then it's just how you send the email. And so we have a price increase template in the course. I'm pretty sure. We have a disengagement letter in the course. And I reviewed it when I disengaged with the client and actually used the template from the course. Pretty much, it was pretty similar. Okay. The encouragement I'm going to leave you with on this topic is you are not just a data entry person. That's not your job. You are preparing financials that they're going to use to run their business and to file taxes. Data entry people are not reviewing the financials for accuracy. They're not reviewing the tax return against the books to see if assets were actually depreciated. That's not just throwaway money. They're also asking questions to make sure the books are done right. I met with a bookkeeper who was given some bad advice in Facebook groups. And the effect of that was that there were some just income and expenses that they ran through equity. So really that income and expenses just vanished. They were business expenses, but the result is they weren't claimed in the prior year. They weren't claimed in the current year. It just vanished from the financials through equity. Like the business wasn't claiming the income, wasn't claiming the expenses. Okay, expenses. All right, IRS isn't coming after you for claiming expenses. They are going to come after you for not claiming income, right? So thankfully it wasn't that material and we were able to fix it. But in the long run, like that is your job, right? And Megan, let me know if you disagree on anything I said there. But so it's definitely more than data entry is what you're doing.
Yep.
And guys, in bookkeeping, you can find $100,000 mistakes. I had a client who used his retirement funds to pay his tax bill, only for us to amend his tax returns and get him the money back because his tax returns were done incorrectly. There was some stuff done wrong by the previous tax preparer and bookkeeper, which is why, again, we say bookkeeper, tax preparer, different. So we're not encouraging you guys to be tax preparers. Get really good at what you do. The money will follow that. And it's not necessarily charging like what you're worth. If you haven't listened to Jen's podcast from last week, she even mentions this. What is the job worth? And that doesn't mean you're charging what me or Megan are charging. You might charge more because the job that you're doing for the client is worth a lot more than basic bookkeeping or what me and Megan are charging, like our clients. I have a couple of clients that like the job I'm doing for them. If you're looking at $100 rate, they're charged way more than $100 rate just because of the overall job and the time commitment that we have with them. But again, that's the benefit of having some sort of packaging, pricing strategy, like some sort of plan in place that you can be consistent, is because then when you do find those clients, it's a win. It's an easy win because you know why you're pricing the way you are. You know that's going to allow you to hire for that new client. You know that it's going to give you confidence that you hired the right person. They're capable of doing the work. You're capable of doing the work. Or you're pricing it so that you can get help while you're learning. Okay, there's my rant. And I just wanted to leave you guys with those 4 tips. We really deeply care about you guys quoting, at least reasonably. We don't care if you're quoting super high. We care that you're quoting consistently and know why you're quoting. If it's on the lower end of bookkeeping, we don't care. There is so many, if that's okay with you, we don't care. We're not competing against you. We're serving our own audiences, we're serving our own people. And we've done the math with you guys on previous podcasts. There are plenty of business owners for like literally all of us. Right? I don't think there's a lot of competition. If you want to grow a bookkeeping business, you will find business owners that need you. You might be saving them from a bad bookkeeper. So don't be the bad bookkeeper. That's what we're here for. And the benefit is you're going to grow a business that works for you, your lifestyle, your desire. I was helping a bookkeeper, might have been 3 years ago, this particular individual, and he was sending out a lot of quotes. So if this is you, definitely get on a call with one of us. Sending out a lot of quotes, getting a lot of no's. And when I got on with him in like a private coaching call, and we looked at his pricing. And I figured out that he was pricing based on revenue, pricing just whatever he desired. And that resulted in a lot of no's because he was just pricing what he hoped to earn that month, sort of thing, or like whatever he thought they would say yes to. Once we got him the pricing calculator, we set up a plan. He grew his business to 6 figures in 6 months. I think it was like December when I had the call with him. By May, he was, I think, having to leave his full-time job because he couldn't do both. That's an okay problem to have. That's how, so I've given you the stories of other bookkeepers that we're dealing with. We've given you stories of us. You don't have to stay there. What broke me when, I know Megan shared some stories while I had to step away for a little one. I had just started my business. So I started my business in October, September, got my first client in October. So mid-September, got a client the first few weeks of October. Grew it. I had done like 3,000 between October and December, which for me was like, as a stay-at-home mom, full-time stay-at-home mom, I was like, oh, this is the best side hustle I could ever do. This beats Etsy. And in tax season, I had chatted with the CFO to try to figure out what I wanted to do with my business. Ended up with a cleanup. I quoted the cleanup. It was a couple of year cleanup, but it was really just review, recategorize some stuff, call it done. Wound up charging $2,800 for it because we didn't really know how simple or complex it was going to be. And so I charged them by the number of months and instantly was smart enough. This is before I met Megan, was smart enough in this instance. I don't know where this person went, but this person at the beginning of my business was smart enough to hire someone to do the cleanup. And I think I paid her somewhere between $900 and $1,200, maybe, and just a fixed rate. She got it done on time. I showed up, talked to the client. He was happy. He came back to me the following year to do the same thing. I charged him $1,500 for the following year. And I was hooked on hiring people after that. But then I went through several years of how to hire and outsource. And that is no joke if you're doing it on your own. And I was, because I didn't know who else to ask. No one else was like, I asked Megan a lot of questions. She saw me through a lot of that. Okay, I would like to ask a question about quoting. How do you stand by your minimum pricing when you keep getting a no? I found myself sliding backwards in price to pick up more work. You have to say no. You have to be okay with the no. And for that, and Megan, feel free to chime in, but here's what I know from that, because I went through that. I wasn't being like, in wanting the yes, being willing to go lower to get the yes wasn't in integrity with myself. I was cheating myself out of the client. I was cheating myself and my family out of the time because I know it was going to take a lot more work. And instead of giving my family me, I was taking myself away from my family for not enough pay. And that I regret. Right. So the other thing I did is I went and did a fact check. How much does it cost me to do this work? How many hours and what is that rate? And what I did is I put it on Excel, just open an Excel sheet. List the clients, list the hours that you work, list A, B, or C. Do I even like this client? Are they a pain? If they send me an email or chat me in the portal, what's my response? Oh no, it's Anthony. Oh yes, it's Sarah. What is that response? And then what is the actual cost of doing that work? What is it actually costing you? You should never be paying a client to do their bookkeeping. That's silly. They're supposed to be paying you. You're not paying them. But you pay them when you're working 20 hours for $200 a month. You're making $10 an hour. You can go get, as an accountant, you can go get $20 an hour working for someone virtually. So that doesn't make sense. Sure, there might be cleanups while you're learning all of those things. That's that hobby to work slide, right? You've got to learn the skill. And then once you learn the skill or learn how to hire for the skills you lack, depending on how you're going to do this business, you have to be true to you. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. For me, that's how I operate. So for me, that's why I do packaging, because I can just give the package. But the quoting calculator will also give you just a fixed price that you can give that individual client, unique to that client. And that's why I use a pricing calculator. That's the price. It's yes or no. I'm not going to go into Walmart and bargain for a package of bread. They're going to be like, what? That's the price. You might be able to bargain on like a clearance item. You'll talk to the manager, but bread, milk, eggs, they're going to be like, that's the price. So why can't you? So like, then do you respect yourself enough at that pricing? If you don't, let's look at the pricing. Why are you priced that way? Can you stand behind it? And I couldn't early on. I was all over the map trying to figure out how people were pricing, what should be priced.
And I also, just another comment or like on that topic, a couple of things. Remember, every no is getting you closer to a yes. So maybe you just need to go talk to some more people, not like you just haven't talked to enough to get to that yes. And also take a step back and look at who have you quoted that's given you those no's. So Sherry was talking about her $300,000 a year minimum. Like, where were they at revenue wise? What types of businesses were these? Because maybe you just need to refocus your niche, try to get in front of other types of business owners, things along those lines. Because I don't know what your minimum is, but there's a lot of business owners who are willing to pay whatever that minimum is, because we've seen anywhere from $100 as a minimum to $700 a month as a minimum. So you're just not getting in front of the right people either, or it's possible that you're not.
I was recently talking to I don't know if they were a CPA, but another firm, just in, it was like with a client, and this other firm's minimum was $1,000 a month, which some days makes a lot of sense, but that's not my clientele. My clients aren't looking for $1,000 a month. So I'm very clear on who my audience is now. I can't bargain with bills piling up, but I like what you're saying about getting in front of the right people. Myron Golden, Megan, also, I don't know what video he says this in, so go consume a lot of his content, but he talks about when he was doing like door-to-door sales, he kept going. Oh, what did he do? His game was no's. How many no's can I get? Like
literally he turned it. I know what video you're talking about. He literally turned it into a game.
Yeah. And so it was just no's. Like he could finally go home.
It was like 50 no's, something like that. Yeah. Like he would not leave until, so if everybody was telling him yes, he stayed all day until that was his goal.
Yeah. There was like
a
fixed number of no's that he had to get in that day before he could just go home. If he got them in the first hour, then great. But often he would get a yes before then. So for me, I have a metric of, I want to talk to 100 people. And I know some of you are like, how? This could be Messenger. This could just be an audience who's seen your post, but it's a round number for the sake. Okay. If your number is 20, great. If your number is 10, great. Okay. Let's start with where we're at. When I first got started, for context, I did about 3 to 5 bids on Upwork. So jobs that I was like, hey, I would like to work for, I would like this job for you. Freelancer type thing. I did 3 to 5 a day. So over the course of the month, I was also with kids, so I wasn't always super consistent, but I think I had a minimum of, if I needed 15 a month, like a week. So at the end of the month, it was like 60 to 90 proposals would go out, like bids for jobs. Rounded up to 100 for the sake of this, because it was like really when I started getting to 100 a month. So if I did 100 a month, messengers on Facebook, Upwork, this could be alignable messages, wherever you're at, and talk to 100 people or find 100 business owners that need bookkeeping, right? That's who I want to be in front of. A podcast with an audience of 100 dedicated listeners. Out of that, I want 10 messages back. I want 10 people to say, oh yeah, I need a bookkeeper. Can you tell me more about that? Oh, okay. I want 5 of them to hop on a call. I want to send 5 of them a quote. So 5 of them are either going to get on a physical Zoom call, phone call, or I'm going to give them a quote. Hey, based on what you just told me, it's going to be about $500 a month. You can do that in Messenger. Out of all of that, I would expect 1 to sign. But that framework is going to look different for your niche, your personality. And so it's still a 20% close rate. It's a 20 to 40% close rate. depending on the type of people you're getting. So you're going to pay attention to that, who responded, all of those things. But it's probably just a numbers game for you, is what Megan and I are. Okay, last question. When y'all started, if you had a full-time job also at the beginning, did you let your prospective client know that you're only available after a certain time? And if yes, did any of them question you also having a full-time job? Megan, I think that one's for you. I was stay-at-home mom, so I didn't have open availability, but
I mean, it wasn't something that I was just always, hey, I'm still working full time. I'm only available these hours. It's one of those things where you set the tone in the beginning of your business. You don't want to answer the phone every single time it rings and they call anyway, because then like you start having boundary issues. They're expecting answers right away. So want to set the tone of, hey, let's schedule a call and get on a call anyway. I did try to do some calls on lunch breaks, after work, those sort of things. What a lot of business owners kind of were in the same position as you at some point in time, having a full-time job and trying to work, like start a business and all the things. So they've been in your position at some point in time. So they understood that. And another thing, a lot of the business owners that I ran into are still actively working in their business too. So they were okay with an evening time call or meetup or whatever I needed to do, because they're full-time, focused on their business, making sure everything's running fine. So after 5 o'clock, it was perfect to hop on a call and those sort of things. Yeah, somebody said they had a text at 8 p.m. last night, but it's so important to make sure you set those boundaries. So if you push them back to send me an email and I'll follow up when I can, or if you need a call, you got to get on this schedule. Like here's a link, schedule a call, or either you just set up a call. But be super, especially starting out, be super strict about that. And that sets the boundaries for your entire business starting out anyway. So it's a good habit to get into. So it doesn't, but again, the ones who did know I was working full time, it wasn't a big deal to them. They knew what my goal was. Like I was starting this business so that I could do it full time and all the things. They understood that. They were at that point, either currently or at some point in their own business.
I worked almost 100% nights that first year. It wasn't until the second full year that I started working during the day more, but nights and weekends were really when I worked. So if I needed to send an email, I would send it. I did have one client who knew that I was working nights. He would respond at night. So if I sent it before 10, I was on 8 to 10. So if he responded, great, that allowed me to keep working. But you have to know, I did have to backpedal with him and set some harder boundaries as I grew. Another thing I've done is in my email signature, I say when I check email. You can also, when I started out, I didn't say when I checked email, I said 72-hour response time or something, like super lame. I'd probably recommend like 48, but I said 72 just in case kids got sick or something. And my clients at that point in time didn't have payroll. They were basic bookkeeping. So really, I just needed to talk to them at the end of the month, unless I had questions as I went. At that point, I didn't have a portal. So it was, I guess, kind of a lot more work. I wish I'd keep her back then. How nice that would have been, Megan.
I know. There's a lot of things like I wish I would have known about that, or this was available, or
anyway, I'm like, how did I do that? I think at the end of the month, I just issued financials and said, hey, I still have these questions or whatnot. And it was really lame, but I wanted to make it work. But yeah, absolutely. I don't think I responded to text unless I was like actively working on their account and I'm the one causing the text. But at the zoo, I remember getting a phone call at the zoo from said client I was just talking about, and answered it. And he was trying to talk to me about work and stuff. And I was like, this is not why I started this business. He was a very needy client for not much money. Again, that's why we need pricing and packages or some sort of plan. And we're going to talk more about that this month. If that's what you're struggling with, keep getting on these calls. There's 2 or 3 back to back at the end of the month that are going to cover pricing, packaging. all of those things.
And if you need more support than that, we're happy to help you in our program as well. We just revamped, relaunched the Bookkeeper Blueprint Pro at $24.97 for the year, or $247 a month if you're interested in that. And that's course. So we have our pricing calculator, all of the things in there. So that'll help you streamline the pricing and all the things. And then you get our paid Facebook group, as well as 2 weekly calls. And then we're also starting a mindset call in there as well. So you'll have the group coaching calls, the page to ask the questions, and all the things. And Allie just dropped the link for that. So we would love to see y'all over there. There's so much information in there, especially if you're brand new starting out and you're not sure about pricing and all the things. That would be perfect.
And there is a current promotion going on for that too right now, right? So Friday by midnight, if you pay in full by midnight Friday, I don't know if there's a time zone on that. I could speak to that, but midnight Friday, you'll need an Equip subscription, Equip 360, the software we use. But with all of that, we are going to set up your landing page. So if you have a freebie, we've been talking about freebies this week. If you don't have one, we can help you create one. We're going to set up your email sequence. So that way you have a freebie, an email sequence, and can start sending emails to these potential clients or clients that you talk to. It's a great way to bring people back after you get on a call and they're like, they ghosted me. I think I hear a bookkeeper say that every month. Okay, so what's our follow-up plan? You don't know that they didn't just get hit by a bus or their spouse or whatnot. So it's our follow-up plan. And we say that because we've had clients come back just because, not come back, but like start services because they hire, like for me, I had a client who they signed with another bookkeeper because they were cheaper. That was the only reason. They liked me. They were just pinching pennies. And they came back to me 6 months later. I had to redo all of the work she did. So I had to charge them for that. I also found out additional stuff that they had added to their books. So I had to charge them for that. So it was more expensive. But they came back because of email. And I was top of mind. I made it easy for them to contact me. So that's what we're helping you guys set up, because one of the biggest barriers is just getting it set up. Sending the email isn't the biggest barrier. So we're going to help you set all of that up for you. Okay. Thanks for letting me add that. And I'm excited about that because so many of you guys have told us you want that. It's just it's a time. Y'all are busy in tax season right now. So we are too. We get it. But, okay.
Awesome.
See you guys next week.
Thank y'all. Bye.